They say every forgotten place holds a story, but some stories are better left untold. In the heart of the mist-shrouded countryside lies the village of Corvin, a place where time seems to stand still. And looming over it, like a skeletal finger pointing at the sky, is Wraith Hill. At its peak sits a house, a dark silhouette against the often gray heavens. No one in Corvin dares to go near it after dark. The house, crumbling and choked by ancient vines, has windows as black and empty as a starless night. It's been abandoned for nearly 50 years, yet it feels watchful. The locals whisper that the wind carries voices down from the hill, faint and sorrowful. Sometimes, they say, lights flicker in the upper windows, a ghostly dance in rooms that should be filled with nothing but dust and decay. Of course, most people dismiss these tales as old folklore, the kind of ghost stories told to scare children. But even the bravest skeptics never venture close enough to prove them wrong. The fear is a tangible thing in Corvin, a silent agreement to leave the secrets of Wraith Hill undisturbed. But that all changed the day Eleanor Price arrived. Eleanor was a historian from the city, 34 years old, with a mind as sharp as a tack and a healthy skepticism for anything that went bump in the night. Her passion wasn't for ghosts, but for history, specifically early Victorian architecture. Her research had led her down a rabbit hole of forgotten blueprints and faded photographs, all pointing to one place, the Blackwell estate. That was the house's original name, long before the terrified villagers had rebranded it the Wraith House. She'd uncovered the estate's tragic history. Its last owner, a wealthy industrialist named Thomas Blackwell, had vanished without a trace in the autumn of 1872. He wasn't alone. His wife, their entire staff of servants, and a young child rumored to be theirs, all of them gone. The house was found silent, the dinner table still set for a meal that was never eaten. No bodies were ever found, no clues were left behind. They had simply been erased from existence. Eleanor arrived in Corvin on a gray November afternoon, the kind that feels like twilight even at noon. Her small car crunched up the overgrown gravel path, winding through a gauntlet of twisted, leafless oak trees that looked like skeletal arms reaching for her. The clouds hung low and heavy, pregnant with a rain that smelled of wet stone and the deep, earthy scent of rot. She parked before the house and for the first time saw it with her own eyes. It was immense. 3 stories of Gothic despair, its roof sagging under the weight of time, its windows either boarded up or shattered into jagged teeth. The massive front doors were swollen shut by decades of damp sealed against the world. Yet, through the grime and decay, a single detail caught her eye. The brass door knocker, shaped like an angel with its wings folded over its eyes, still gleamed with a faint, ghostly light, as if it had been polished yesterday. A sensible person would have felt a chill crawl up their spine. They would have felt the oppressive weight of the place, the silent warning in the air. They would have started their car and driven away, leaving the house to its ghosts and its secrets. But Eleanor was not a sensible person in that way. Standing in the shadow of the Wraith House, she didn't feel fear. She felt a deep, irresistible pull, a historian's fascination. She was standing on the threshold of a 50-year-old mystery, and she was determined to be the one to solve it. With a historian's toolkit and a scholar's resolve, she approached the sealed entrance. The wood of the main doors was too thick, too warped to force. But her research had shown her old architectural plans. Around the side, obscured by a curtain of ivy, was a smaller service entrance leading to the kitchens. The lock was old and rusted. With a bit of effort and a well-placed pry bar from her car, the lock groaned, then snapped. The heavy oak door creaked open into a void of darkness. A wave of cold, stagnant air washed over her, carrying the scent of dust, mildew, and something else, something faintly sweet, like dried flowers. She pulled out a powerful flashlight, its beam cutting a sharp white cone into the oppressive blackness. The kitchen was a tomb of forgotten domesticity. Cast iron pots hung from hooks, coated in a thick layer of cobwebs. A layer of dust, as fine as snow, covered every surface. On a long wooden table, a loaf of bread sat petrified under a glass dome, hard as a rock. It was as if the occupants had just stepped out for a moment and never returned. Driven by a relentless curiosity, Eleanor moved deeper into the house. Her footsteps echoed unnervingly in the grand foyer. Moonlight struggled through the grime on a massive stained glass window high above, casting colored, ghostly patterns on the marble floor. A grand staircase swept upwards into the shadows of the second floor. Everything was draped in white sheets, making the furniture look like a congregation of shrouded figures in the gloom. It was magnificent and deeply unsettling. As she explored the ground floor, she found the library. Bookshelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling, filled with leather-bound volumes. Most were decaying, their pages warped and spotted with mold. But one shelf, near the large, cold fireplace, seemed different. The books there were dust-free. Her gloved fingers traced their spines. They weren't just books. They were journals. Dozens of them, all bound in the same dark leather. The personal diaries of Thomas Blackwell. Her heart hammered in her chest. This was it, the jackpot, the key to understanding what happened here. She pulled one from the shelf, its leather cool to the touch, and opened it. The date on the first page read, October 1st, 1872. Blackwell's handwriting was elegant, precise. He wrote of his joy in his new home, his love for his wife, Amelia, and their hopes for their young daughter, Clara. The early entries were filled with optimism, but as she flipped through the pages, the tone began to shift. A week into their residency, Blackwell wrote of strange occurrences, faint music box melodies with no source, doors creaking open on their own, servants complaining of feeling watched, of cold spots that moved through the rooms. He initially dismissed it as the house settling, the imaginings of a superstitious staff. Then came the entry that made Eleanor's blood run cold. Blackwell described finding his daughter Clara in the hallway, talking to an empty corner. When he asked who she was talking to, she replied, "The sad lady in the wall." Clara said the lady was lonely and wanted a friend to play with. The entries grew more frantic. Blackwell wrote of seeing a fleeting shape in the corner of his eye, a tall, slender woman in a dark dress. Amelia became withdrawn and pale, spending hours staring at a blank wall in their bedroom, humming a tune Eleanor recognized as the same one from the music box. The servants began to quit, fleeing in terror, telling wild stories of a spectral woman who roamed the halls at night, weeping. Finally, Eleanor found the last entry. It was dated October 31st, 1872. The handwriting was a barely legible scrawl, the ink blotted as if his hand was shaking violently. "She is not a ghost," he wrote. "She is the house, and the house is hungry. It has taken Amelia. It has taken Clara. It wants us all. The walls are moving. The angel on the door. It's not weeping. It's hiding. It knows what's inside. God help me." The journal entry ended there, abruptly. As Eleanor finished reading, a floorboard creaked upstairs. Her head snapped up, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. She was alone. She had to be. It was just the old house settling, she told herself, her own mind playing tricks on her. But then she heard it, faintly, from the floor above, the tinkling, delicate melody of a music box. It was coming from the master bedroom. A cold, rational part of her mind screamed to run, to get out of the house and never look back. But the historian in her, the part that had led her here, was stronger. She had to see. She had to know. Clutching her flashlight like a weapon, she ascended the grand staircase, her every step a thunderclap in the oppressive silence. The music grew louder, clearer, as she reached the second-floor landing. It was a hauntingly beautiful lullaby, yet filled with an unbearable sadness. It led her down the hall to a set of double doors, the master bedroom. She pushed the door open. The room was vast, dominated by a four-poster bed draped in rotting silk. And there, on a small dressing table, sat an antique wooden music box. Its lid was open, and the tiny metal cylinder was turning on its own, plucking out the melody that filled the room. As the music played, the air grew frigid. Eleanor's breath plumed in front of her. A dark, damp stain began to spread across the wallpaper on the far wall, coalescing, taking shape. It formed the silhouette of a tall, slender woman. Slowly, a face began to emerge from the plaster, a face with hollow eyes and a mouth open in a silent scream. The house wasn't just haunted. Blackwell was right. The house was the haunting. It had absorbed the souls of its victims, and now it had a new visitor. The music box clicked and fell silent, and in that sudden, deafening quiet, a whisper slithered through the air, seeming to come from the walls themselves. "Stay," it hissed. "Play with us. Forever." The bedroom door slammed shut behind her, the sound echoing like a final gunshot. Eleanor was plunged into absolute darkness, alone with the whispers, the cold, and the hungry heart of the Wraith house. And this time, there was nowhere left to run. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilling journey into the Blackwell estate. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more tales from the shadows. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to Eleanor. Until next time, stay safe and be careful what doors you open.